Why do parliamentarians have such a bitter fate? How is it that people in America aren't as free as in Russia? Are there any patriotic IT professionals in Russia? How can you cope with burnout and envy? Three-time Olympic champion Irina Rodnina answered all of Ria Novosti Sports questions frankly. Do you have straight-A student syndrome? Absolutely not. My older sister was a straight-A student. She never even had any BS in her quarters. Everywhere I go at school, her photo is on every floor. Here she's the best, here she is, and here she is. That's why I have anti-straight-A student syndrome. I was only an A student in first grade. I couldn't do any better. What about life in general? Is there really no striving for perfection? No. You know, it's no coincidence that straight-A student is feminine. There are straight-A students, but there are always fewer of them. And they usually happen in high school, when the boys start to get their heads in a daze. The synonym for straight-A student was crammer. I clearly wasn't a crammer. But you were the best in sports. That doesn't apply to straight-A students. It's not the desire to be the best, but passion, serious ambition, and incredible responsibility. Especially if you're on a team. You're responsible for yourself and for the other guy. And the term straight-A student doesn't apply to me at all. How was this responsibility expressed outside the rink in the 60s and 70s? Back then, our work with youth was more systematic. Not like now. We hold an event and forget about it. Back then, there were many programs, starting with Virgin Soil Upturned. They were designed to develop the region and you as an individual. This responsibility, by the way, was also reflected in the fact that we weren't allowed to study for long periods of time. Studying for decades, like now, was impossible and shameful. You were a public figure back then. Thank God, the concept of public figure didn't exist back then. They held us accountable, but they also protected us. Now, if you have problems, they're your own. Defend yourself, go to court. But they fought for us. But you probably had to keep up appearances and pursue ideals? We didn't keep up appearances, we weren't particularly fond of makeup. But we had ideals. I first visited the GDR in 1966-67. The entire center of Berlin and Dresden were in ruins. I was very struck by this. By that time, I'd traveled around the country, and neither Minsk, which had suffered greatly, nor Volgograd, nor Kiev were in ruins. And yet, we lived in a communal apartment, without hot water. We went to the bathhouse to wash, where there were countless people with war scars. We didn't even utter the word patriotism because it was literally in every action we took, in every song, in our works, in our stories. You lived in America in the 90s and 2000s. How were people there different from ours? Life has shown that we are much freer than Americans. We don't recognize any boundaries at all. That's probably our problem. Americans are more organized in some ways, more disciplined, and law-abiding. It's much cheaper and more convenient to live by the law there, not by arbitrary rules. It's no coincidence that Medvedev said we have legal nihilism. We want to feel free. But we somewhat confuse the concepts of democracy and permissiveness. Democracy is clear, strict rules and laws. But that's a process that builds. We lived under great oppression. Young people didn't particularly feel it. And what was life like for young people? We all dressed the same because everything was produced the same. But we didn't have the same materialism we have today. We didn't suffer from not having lacy underwear or anything else. Perhaps because everyone was in an equal position. Didn't you want to stand out? Stand out at the rink. Once, they didn't have time to make me a dress for the new season. I told my coach, I'll have to skate in the old one. I feel awkward in it. To which he replied, honey, if they're looking at your dress, it means no one's interested in your skating. That's how they taught us. It's not how you dress that matters, but how you act, study, achieve results, and improve yourself. Was there any envy at the time? Someone certainly did. It's a difficult feeling, like jealousy. You weren't envious? I don't suffer from that. And did you ever feel envious of yourself? Of course. Did that apply to sports? Basically, yes. Our results, our popularity. Nowadays, there are tons of channels on television, and you can find anything you want online. But back then, there were 3 buttons for the entire country. Naturally, we were famous. Plus, I topped the podium for so many years and was a hindrance to everyone. It's natural. It's hard to understand this feeling at first. Then you understand the nature of this terrible disease. It consumes a person. And what is its nature? Envy is. Why you and not me? How am I any worse than you? We sometimes start projecting equality onto this. We hear this a lot, especially when it concerns Muscovites. Now, less so, because you come here, rent or buy an apartment, and work. But back then, the deepest desire of a large number of people in our country was to have a higher education degree and a Moscow residence permit. No more than 45% of graduates went to university. In the entire Soviet Union, there were 1,000 educational institutions, not counting military ones. And now, in Russia alone, we have 800. We had a lot of poor students. The average student didn't even have any plans to go to college. Does white envy exist? And what is it? A kind of joy for someone else's success. Well, then, just rejoice. There are other words and feelings for that. This is just an expression, meaningless. Have you ever felt life passing you by while you're working toward Olympic gold? Absolutely not. When they say we've lost so much, I don't understand. What have we lost? Many people talk about family, the ordinary joys of life, free time, walks. If you have an interesting job, for anyone, family becomes secondary. Just wandering around the city is no longer interesting to you. You're passionate about something else. I can breathe in so much fresh air during practice, especially since we trained a lot on the outdoor rink. I managed to get an education. Maybe not what I dreamed of, but I have one. I had a family, too. It wasn't just my husband and children. It was my mom, dad, grandparents, aunts and uncles, just people close to me. So what did we lose in that regard? Nothing. But what we gained, for some reason, no one counts. What? Much more. Knowledge, a profession, ourselves, first and foremost. We learned to work, to take responsibility. We met a huge number of people we wouldn't have met in our close family circle. Many people, after finishing their careers, talk with regret about what they lost. So, my career wasn't very successful. Even Olympic champions say that. Well, I left the sport completely satisfied. I have nothing to complain about. If I just want to whine, I don't think the press and television are the right place to do it. Of course, I have some mistakes and regrets, but complaining about life isn't my style. You've been working in the State Duma since 2007. How difficult was it to adapt to this new environment? Any new job is challenging. We have plenary weeks and regional meetings with voters. While I was elected on party lists in 2007, I've been a single mandate candidate for the last 2 convocations. It's a completely different responsibility. Unfortunately, people, partly due to our own fault, have developed a rather incorrect understanding of who deputies are. Subsequently, many laws were passed regulating deputies' responsibilities. Now the demands on our activities are quite high. This wasn't the case before. I'll never forget how a woman once told me during the elections, "I know you're running for immunity." I told her, "Listen, we're at an age where we're happy if someone touches us." Deputies also behave differently, and this irritated people. Why not smear a deputy? For some journalists, it's a real bomb in their work. Is it envy or a desire to stand out? I don't know. Especially since there are plenty of opportunities to find anyone's weak points. Now, both the deputies themselves and those in the executive branch are being cleaned up. Previously, there were many people who were engaged in plundering the country. We are all learning and changing as we go. Look at Moscow now. Clean, beautiful. It amazes everyone. But now, when you visit any city in the Moscow region, everything is well groomed. Regional leaders get a lot of flack for uncut grass, unplowed snow, and dirty streets. And the whole country follows Moscow's lead. I think only the blind wouldn't notice these changes. When you first came to the Duma, did you encounter skepticism? You become a whipping boy. All your merits and achievements are immediately forgotten. Coming here hoping that you're famous and things will be easier for you isn't worth it. There are no fools in the State Duma. But we are all different people with our own personalities and ambitions, representing different parties. But when it comes to the country, party ambitions fade into the background. How do you handle criticism? If it's understandable, then it's fine. It helps you develop if you're a normal person. And if someone wants to insult or mock you without reason, why react? It's not criticism, but envy. And when the coaches yelled, was there any resentment or protest? Listen, the field is so huge, and there's music playing, plus everything is in motion. To be heard, you have to raise your voice a little, use your other vocal cords. A coach's job is to get the most out of you. A coach helps you, even if it offends you. Sometimes they do it deliberately, so that this anger, passion, and desire to prove them wrong flares up within you. This is necessary. In pedagogy, this is a fairly powerful approach to developing a personality. Through pain, shouting, overcoming, and insults, we are not being prepared for a life of idleness, but for battle. Being gentle and kind is like lying on the couch like a cat, watching TV and eating popcorn. Have you ever wanted to just lie around? Definitely not. So that they don't yell at you, feel sorry for you, and live a quiet life? I've had a quiet and, most importantly, interesting life, with its passions, ups and downs. But this cloudless atmosphere doesn't interest me. Do you think that without the strict coaching that's so characteristic of specialists in our country, nothing will work? You have to understand that, starting in Soviet times, the coach was held accountable first and foremost. Every Soviet athlete had one goal: winning. Today, striving for results, we rejoice in silver and bronze medals. I'm amazed when they say, bronze with a golden tint. What grade did you get in chemistry? That phrase about a golden tint makes me want to cry. Is the fact that sport, as experience shows, is ultimately politically connected, is it a plus or a minus? No event in the world attracts such a large audience as the Olympic Games. Naturally, the desire to take advantage of it arises. The question is, for what purpose and how? The Olympic movement, at its core, promotes the equality of all peoples, regardless of religion, skin color, or nationality. This idea can ignite and interest anyone. But now that's not the case at all. Nowadays, there's a general disregard for international law. That's why we see so many military conflicts literally everywhere. And, unfortunately, resolving issues by force is becoming a common occurrence. It's terrible. Terrible. There's no other definition for it. Have you experienced burnout? I have. It happens everywhere. It's a natural process. We even tell teachers that the main thing is not to burn out in your work, to which you dedicate yourself completely. And have you ever wanted to quit? Of course, humans are weak. And how did you come back? In different ways. It's a fleeting desire. When there's a tremendous amount of work behind it, responsibility, and people you work with to achieve results, you realize you can't give up. And weaknesses happen, and you have to overcome them. How? It varies. But since I've participated in so many major competitions, I found the strength to cope. Now, it seems like everyone is burning out even faster and more often. Because professional sports are for adults, we have a lot of children in complex sports. I always say that Vladimir Ilyich Lenin abolished child labor in 1917, but we continue to use children. That's why a child burns out when they achieve certain results. He achieves these goals in gymnastics and figure skating at the age of 15-17. Physically, he can still do it by inertia, but psychologically, he can't handle it. That's why many international federations are fighting to prevent athletes who are too young from taking on serious challenges. Are there any ideals at all these days? They've begun to emerge. The country went through a very difficult time, but it's come back. I remember very well how the word patriotism was practically a curse word. It was spoken of with disdain. And yet, patriotism was always demanded only of athletes. I couldn't understand it. Everyone lives differently here. Something is being hidden or something is being manipulated in government agencies, and a huge number of IT specialists are leaving our country. Has anyone ever held a civic position against a single IT specialist? We have a large number of people who either don't pay their taxes or dishonestly submit them. We don't hold any civic position against them either. It's easier to take advantage of athletes. What does patriotism mean to you? Loving your country. But there are different ways to do that. Some people are concerned about the environment. Isn't that love for their country? Another cares about the younger generation. And they work towards it. Some create wealth, others work internationally. That's when your interests are the interests of the country. You're an example of someone who has achieved incredible heights in sports and continues to be involved in social work. What's the most important lesson you've learned in life? Believe in yourself and never stop. You won't achieve anything lying on the couch.